Hello, this is attorney Brian Pendergraft, and this is my Maryland Petition for Warrant for Restitution User Guide, in which I'll show you how to properly fill out the Petition for Warrant for Restitution form, and that is form DC-CV-081. And this is the form that the judge must sign off on to authorize the sheriff to restore possession of the property to the landlord. So in other words, this is how to properly have an eviction carried out. So when you get a judgment in landlord-tenant court, whether it's for failure to prevent or tenant holding over, the court, again, they just grant you a judgment, but they don't do anything after that. This is until you have to submit this form. So and they don't do it for you. So either you will have to submit the warrant for restitution, or your agent or your attorneys will have to do it on your behalf. That said, here are a few caveats. So one, this is legal information. This is not legal advice. For legal advice, contact a landlord-tenant attorney in your jurisdiction, such as myself. My contact information is in the description below. And caveat number two, this video was taken on November 30th, 2019. So if you're watching this video anytime after that, it is possible that either the form may have changed or that the costs you'll see me use in this video, they may have changed. So check with your local district court or with an attorney to make sure that the fees and the forms that you are using are up to date. Because if you are watching this video after November 30th, 2019, it may have changed. All right, so let's get into it. All right, so essentially, when when you get a petition for warrant for restitution form, yours isn't probably going to be as let's say you're not going to be filling it in like this, actually. So you're going to get a carbon copy form from your local district court. That's where we can get it from. And you're going to have to fill it in by hand. I guess that's how you're going to have to fill yours in. But nevertheless, my handwriting is horrible. So, I did mine on a here I just got a PDF that I filled out. I filled in all the blanks on the PDF. But again, you're going to have to get the carbon copy forms that are at your local district court. And I'm going to show you how, or at least, what needs to go in the blanks in order to get your warrant for restitution through. So we're going to go blank by blank, actually. So we're going to start from the top and then we're going to work our way down. So first blank, District Court of Maryland 4. Here I put Prince George's County. That is the jurisdiction where I primarily practice. That's where I tend to get most of my judgments. But again, you're gonna have to put the right jurisdiction wherever the property is located. So what county the property is located in. So that could be, I don't know, Baltimore County, Montgomery County, Baltimore City. I guess Baltimore City is kind of weird because that's the only one where you actually put, I guess, Baltimore. I guess the city's treated kind of like its own county in a way. Nevertheless, so Baltimore City is Baltimore City, but everywhere else is a county where the property is located. All right, so moving on to the next blank here. So located at, so here you put the district court address. So again, for Prince George's County, that's Hyattsville District Court. So that's the address to Hyattsville District Court. You're gonna have to put the address of wherever your court hearing was held. That is the essentially the same address that for the district court that you'll be using there. All right, moving on to this case number blank. So what goes there is, you guessed it, the case number. So don't leave that blank, otherwise I'm gonna kick it back to you. All right, so moving on to the next blank here, plaintiff agent. You write in the name of the landlord, and under that you write in the address of the landlord. All right, so moving on. Next blank here, defendant. As you can see, you just write in the defendant's name, and then under that you write in the address of the property. So that is the address. All right, so moving on to the next blank, on blank the court. So that is the date where you write in when you got your judgment, essentially. So that is that is the judgment date. That is what goes in that blank. So here you see on 11/20/2019, the court, let's see. So here I have checked off. So you're gonna have to decide which of these boxes that need to be checked off. So start with the first box. So determine the amount due to be $1,000 plus cost of $20. So Let's see. Yeah, so that is your judgment amount. So let's say so here let's say determine the amount due to be $1,000. So let's say you were awarded 1 month's rent for $1,000. You in that first month, you want to write in $1,000 plus cost of, as you can see here, the cost is $20. Now, here's how the costs are determined. So for one tenant, the for most counties, there's one exception, but I'll get to that. For most counties, Prince George's County in particular, the cost for one tenant is $20. Now, here is how that cost is calculated, by the way. So you have a $15 filing fee, and then there is a $5 sheriff service fee. So that is how we get to that $20 cost. Now, if there's more than one tenant, it goes up by $5 per tenant. So it goes up by $5 per tenant. So if there's two tenants, that's going to be $25. Because again, it goes up $5 because there was another $5 for a sheriff service fee. So that is why the price goes up. There's two tenants. There's three tenants. Then it's going to be $30, right? Because you had another $5 $5 additional sheriff service fee. So that is why. So the price again, it increases by $5 per tenant. So for each additional tenant, it goes up another $5, but it starts at $20 for one tenant. So that is the formula. Now in Baltimore City, this will start at $30 because in Baltimore City, it costs an extra your costs are an extra $10 because in Baltimore City, it costs $25 to file a failure to pay rent case. $25, whereas in every other county it costs $15. So that is why it goes up $10 in Baltimore City, because they have a higher cost. Now, generally, this first box, as you can see, I have it checked off here because I did this as if I was doing filling out a warrant for restitution for a failure to pay rent case. But for the most part, if this is a wrongful detainer or a tenant holding over case, generally that part will be left blank and that part will not be checked off. So if you're filing for tenant holding over or warrant for restitution, they generally don't award monetary damages. They generally tend to award possessions. So for the most part, that box tends to not be checked off. Because again, the tenant holding over and wrongful detainer actions, they're non-redeemable after the first hearing. So whatever the amount due doesn't really matter in a warrant for restitution action or a tenant holding over action, because they can't pay and stay anyways, which is why that's generally left blank for wrongful detainer or tenant holding over. So again, I have this checked off here because I'm filling this out as if I'm filling this out for a failure to pay rent case. But if you're filling this out for a tenant holding over or wrongful detainer act case, you generally tend to skip that first box. Now, moving on to the second box here. Now, this box is always checked off, no matter whether it's for a failure to pay rent or for wrongful detainer action. So this is so essentially that is the box that orders that says the property address that's going to be returned to the plaintiff. So for this line, you want to write in the property address. All right. So the next box here is without right of redemption. Now, generally in most failure to pay rent cases, without right of redemption is typically not awarded. So that's why I have this not checked off here. Because again, I'm filling this out as if I'm filling it out for a failure to pay rent case. However, it is possible for it to be awarded in the failure to pay rent case if it's, I believe the rule is about if you've received like 3 judgments for possession within I want to say it's like a 12-month period or something like that. But anyways, the judge, they'll tell you whether or not they have granted you the right of redemption, and if they or grant you a judgment without the right of redemption. And if they have not granted a judgment for without a right of redemption in your failure to pay rent case, you want to check that off. Now, for a tenant holding over or for a wrongful detainer action, it's always without the right of redemption. So you want to check that box off for tenant holding over and wrongful detainer actions. You can check it off the first time. All right. So moving on to this fourth box here. So, and again, in the failure to pay rent action, you, for the most part, want to fill this box out. So it says defendant has made the following payments, if any. Generally, that number is generally zero. So this box for if they've made any payments after a I guess after a judgment has been granted, right? And if they've made any payments, and then and for you to essentially adjust the amount due, so so whatever's outstanding can be accurate essentially. So if they've paid down the, I guess, the judgment, the court wants to know that, so they can make sure that they're not being what's it called, that they're not awarding the landlord any more than what they are due. So for the most part, at least in my cases, that number tends to be zero, because tenants tend to not pay after a judgment was entered against them. So that's why I've entered zero there. So in my case, it is leaving the balance of this filing to be blah, 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 $1,000. So that's the same amount up here. And again, so they've made zero payments. So that is why the balance is still $1,000. Now, your case may be different. They may have made some payments, in which case you would have to lower the balance. And then this box here, you generally want to, if the tenant's still on the property, you want to check off this box. In fact, if they're not on the property, I guess at that point, it makes no point. There's no point in even filing a warrant for restitution. They're not on the property. Well, they're right. They're not on the property anymore. Congratulations. You don't need to file a warrant for restitution. But if they are, or if their things are still on the property, you probably should still file for a warrant for restitution. So you always want to check this box off. Now, this fourth box here on whether or not, defendants has made payments. Now, in the case of a tenant holding over or a wrongful detainer action, you should skip that box, because whether or not they make any payments is irrelevant. It doesn't matter. You get a non-redeemable judgment for possession. It has nothing to do with them, owing money or paying money. So for warrant for restitution or tenant holding over cases, we skip that fourth box. Now, moving on to this next box here, the date. All right. So here, is where you enter the date of filing your warrant for restitution. Now, you have to wait 4 business days before you can file a warrant for restitution for failure to pay rent. So that is why you see here that again, the judgments were entered on 11/22, but I had to wait until 11/27. I had to wait out those 4 business days. That's 11/27 in this case, before I could file this warrant for restitution. So that is why the date is 11/27, and I can't file it until then either. I can't try to file it any earlier. Now, in a tenant holding over or a wrongful detainer action, you don't have to do that. That date can be 11/22. I can file it on the exact same day. Because the rule allows you to do that for tenant holding over and wrongful detainer actions. All right, so we're going to move on to the right here. The signature box, as you can see, that's where you sign. So I just put /S, Brian Pendergraft. That's supposed to represent my signature. Then you write in your, in here, this is just, these boxes or these lines are just your contact information. So you see the address there, phone number, fax number, email, so those are just, again, that's just your contact information. So moving on to order. Now here is the information for the, I guess the order. Yeah, sure. So you want to write in state of Maryland, blank to wit. So in that blank goes the county. Again, this case is in Prince George's County, so I wrote Prince George's County. But if you're in Baltimore County, you want to write Baltimore County, whatever county the property is located in. And then there's, Baltimore City. If it's in Baltimore City, you write in Baltimore City. All right. So now you have essentially, so this court has determined the plaintiff is entitled to possession. And then you have 2 options. Now, you can't check off both of these options. So if it's redeemable, you can check off this first one here. And if it's not redeemable, you can check off this second one. But you can't do both. It's either redeemable or it's not redeemable. So if it's, again, I'm feeling this as a redeemable failure to pay rent action. So here I wrote in that, the amount, this first blank here is the amount that's due. That's $1,000, right? Plus cost of, now the cost here is $20. again, like I said, it's the cost is $20. Again, and that is the cost for, again, one tenant in most counties, $20. You're going to have to adjust that based on your amount of tenants. And again, if you're in Baltimore City, that is going to be that cost is going to be $10 more than what it would be anywhere else. And minus any payments made after the date the petition is filed. So here you write in the same date that you filed the petition. So that's generally the same date that you wrote up here in the I guess next to your signature. It's that same date you want to write there. Now this was it's either, again, redeemable or not redeemable. So if you're filling this out for let's say a tenant holding over action or a wrongful detainer action, we would leave all this stuff we would leave blank, and then we would check off this box here. All right, so moving on to this last and final section. Now, therefore, again, and now we have pretty much the same option here. It's either redeemable, you check off the first box, or it's not redeemable, you check off the second box. But again, you cannot have both. Both cannot be true. It cannot be both redeemable and not redeemable. In this case, I did this as if this was a redeemable, right? Fills up as redeemable. So if it's redeemable, check out the first box and says blah blah. Unless the defendant tenders the plaintiff on his agent cash, certified check, or money order in the amount of, and then in that blank you have to write in the amount. So the amount you write in there is the judgment plus the cost. That is the amount that goes there. So the judgment is $1,000 and the cost is $20. Now, so that is the again, the cost is the essentially that's paying for your filing fees and your share service fees. So that's what that includes, and you want to add that to the judgment. So that way you can recoup both your judgment and your costs. And now, plus, it's a bit confusing because there's another blank for more costs. So what costs are those? Plus this $40 cost. What is that? As you can see, I wrote $40 in this cost here. So that is it costs to file the warrant of restitution. So that is how you, so what goes in that blank is the warrant for restitution costs. And in that case, it is, in most counties, it is $40. But in Baltimore City, it costs a bit extra. So it's going to be $50. So that is how you make sure that, when the tenant pays you off, you get paid for both your judgment, your costs, and you get paid for your warrant for restitution costs as well. Again, let's see, moving on to this next box here. I guess the last box is, again, if it's not redeemable, you leave this top one blank. You leave it blank. You don't fill in anything. And then you just check off the second one. It's not redeemable. They cannot pay and stay. So I guess you lose your $40, or you don't get. Maybe you can sue them in a different action in order to try to get your money back. But you want to check off may not be redeemed if in a let's say a tenant holding over or a wrongful detainer or perhaps a non-redeemable failure to parent scenario. So that is it. That is my Maryland petition for warrant for restitution user guide. I hope that you have found this helpful, and thanks for watching. Take care.